This is a story that I wrote for some special kids, but it never got sent, and I'm hoping that they can hear it now. And my name is Jaslyn, and I made this story. It's called The Eagle Feather. I hope you guys enjoy. The Eagle Feather by Jaslyn, page 1 out of 2. Charlotte pulled up to the scenic outlook as tears ran down her melancholy face. She looked at her rearview mirror. She hated seeing herself in this state. She glanced at the eagle feather as it was twirling from the air conditioner vent to her right. Suddenly, memories filled her mind of her happiest days on the farm. One day, as she was walking home from school, she noticed a particularly big U-Haul parked in her driveway. For all the 10 years of her life, she could never imagine leaving the house that her dad grew up in. She figured it was just some new furniture, right? I mean, leaving the house was the last thing on her mind. As she got closer to the house, she noticed her Uncle James carrying a box labeled kitchen. She ran into the house looking for her parents. She ran up the stairs and into her room out of breath and said, "Mom, what are you doing? And why is Uncle James carrying a box to the U-Haul? And why did you not tell me about this?" Her dad picked up a box, and as he left the room, he patted Charlotte on the shoulder and said,
It's okay, kiddo. It's all gonna work out. You'll see.
Charlotte's mom sat her down and talked to her about the plans. Charlotte felt miserable about having to leave the city and go to the country. But like her dad said, things will work out. She sat in the car, slouched slightly, looking out at the star-filled sky. Her heart hung heavy, knowing that she was leaving everything behind. She was starting a new life now. She didn't want to stay stuck in her sadness. She started to think about her silver lining. She would miss her home, friends, and school dearly, but she was ecstatic about living next to her Uncle James and Auntie Kat. They were her favorite out of all her aunties and uncles. They were always there for her. Exhausted from the day and the stuff and all the things she endured, she fell asleep. Suddenly, the car hit a pothole and it jolted Charlotte from her slumber.
Hey, kiddo. You're right back there?
Said Charlotte's dad. "Still half asleep," Charlotte replied. "Yeah, I'm alright."
Kiddo, I have something to tell you. You'll be staying with your uncle until we can at least get your room ready.
Her father said. Charlotte perked up in her seat with excitement. She loved spending time with her uncle and auntie, her two favorite people in the whole entire world. She woke up as the sun rays sparkled across her face. She raced down the stairs, getting a whiff of bacon and maple syrup. Her stomach started to rumble. As she entered the kitchen, she saw her Uncle James standing beside the oven, taking a big gulp of his morning coffee. She grabbed a seat closest to the window to birdwatch. Her Uncle James placed a good old country breakfast in front of her. "Thanks, Unc," said Charlotte, taking a piece of her toast and dipping it in her egg yolk.
"Hey, hon, sleep good?" said Auntie Cat kindly.
"I slept great," Charlotte said, taking a sip of her orange juice.
"That's great,"
Auntie Cat said. Before Auntie Cat could finish, Uncle James said,
Yeah, me and your aunt will carry you out shooting today.
Charlotte grinned from ear to ear. It had been a long time since she last shot a rifle. Her uncle was an expert on guns. He could break them down, make them, and shoot at such a distance you wouldn't believe it. She had taken everything he taught her, like a sponge soaking up water. She was so eager to learn. After shooting all day, Charlotte got dropped off at her new home. She waved goodbye as she ran into the house. She started thinking about what Uncle James said about wood boogers. She thought it was just all make-believe. "Mom," said Charlotte.
"Yeah?"
said Charlotte's mom. "Can I go outside?" said Charlotte.
"Sure,"
said her mother. She got on her beige-colored cardigan and her brown boots and went outside to explore the farm. Charlotte picked daisies as she walked around the farmland. Before she knew it, she was in the woods. She stumbled across a teepee-like structure. Thinking it was a fort left behind by the previous owner's child, she stepped inside of it. She started hearing noises in the woods. It sounded like a baby owl. Her being an animal fanatic, she decided to check it out. She walked further and further into the woods. She felt scared but excited to see the baby owl. As she was walking, she swore that she saw something or someone standing there out of the corner of her eye. but she easily dismissed it as a bird or some other animal. She came up to an old oak tree, and before her dropped a hairy little humanoid. Surprised, Charlotte said, "Hi," talking to herself. Charlotte said, "What are you? Are you a wood booger like my Uncle James was talking about?" With a shocked look on her face, she said, You're real?" She leaned towards the little Bigfoot, handing him a bouquet of daisies. Shyly, the little Bigfoot took the flowers and smiled with his buck teeth. In the distance, she heard the loudest roar ever, and in a flash, the little Bigfoot was gone. Charlotte stood there in awe. Then she realized it was already past dusk. Running all the way home, completely out of breath, Charlotte said goodnight quickly to her parents and ran straight to her room. There would be many more memories made with her new best friend as the summer days flew by. Every day in the morning, she would run to the woods and whistle a tune only her and the little Bigfoot knew. And within minutes, he would appear. Charlotte and little Bigfoot would have the time of their lives, climbing trees, playing tag, playing hide and seek, and all activities normal best friends do. Charlotte would even sometimes forget that he was a Bigfoot. After a while, she soon realized that he had superpowers. He could run as fast as lightning, he could climb any tree, and he could do 20 backflips in a row, and he amazed Charlotte every day with his abilities. Their friendship and bond grew closer and closer as each day went on. She couldn't tell anyone about her best friend, not even her parents, not even Auntie Kat and Uncle James. She couldn't tell anyone about him. She had to keep him a secret. She figured her new best friend needed a name. She thought long and hard about the perfect name for her best friend. It was a hard decision to make, considering that he is so special. How many people have a Bigfoot as a best friend? One day, they decided to go fishing down at the creek. While Charlotte was hooking a worm, the little Bigfoot had already thrown 3 bass into the bucket. Then it hit her, the perfect name, Bass, of course. Truthfully, it was the only name that seemed to fit him. He loved every minute of fishing. He loved to eat the fish, catch the fish, and bring fish home to his family. They could sit there for hours, fishing, laughing, and playing. Every day was endless fun. Bass had made it a routine to climb up to Charlotte's window every night, and he would knock gently until she came and quickly wave goodbye, and then take off. Charlotte figured it was his way of saying goodnight. From then on, it became a routine so much that Charlotte wouldn't go to sleep until Bass came to say goodnight. Although she never seen his parents, she knew that they were close. Charlotte was fearless, never scared, never frightened, even when she knew that his parents were behind a tree. As the end of summer came upon them, Charlotte knew that she'd have to start school soon. She hated the fact that she'd have to leave Bass all alone, all day. She realized that she couldn't ever hide her feelings from Bass. It's like he knew how she was feeling. He would cheer her up by making funny faces, funny noises, and anything to make her laugh. She knew that he wouldn't understand that she had to go to school every day and leave him. One night, while laying in bed, she heard rapid gunfire where the new farmers had settled in across the way. Charlotte sat up in the bed, feeling instantly frightened. And that night, Bass didn't say goodnight to her. Charlotte knew instantly that something terrible had happened. That same night, she heard a quick, loud knock on her window. It was different than how Bass usually knocked. As Charlotte quietly moved her curtain, she noticed Bass. Opening the window and taking out the screen, they hugged and held each other. Somehow, Charlotte knew that this was goodbye. Goodbye forever. With both of them crying, Bass stopped and wiped Charlotte's tears. Charlotte never heard him try to say her name before. Bass jumped down from the window and quickly climbed up in an instant and handed Charlotte the perfect, cleaned eagle feather. And with that, the baby Bigfoot was gone. Charlotte's phone began to ring, and it pulled her out of her flashback and back to reality. She was let go from her job and had an absolutely rotten day. As she picked up the phone, her dad was on the other line and said,
Hey, kiddo, remember, everything's gonna be okay. You'll see.
Charlotte wiped her face and smiled and said, "You're right, Dad. Everything's going to be okay." Charlotte has always wondered what happened to Bass. She was thankful that she had something to always remember him by, her most prized possession, the eagle feather.